Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman podcast. I am on a mission to encourage 1 million teachers weekly. And ladies and gentlemen, today I have the one and only teacher / coach. Or do you go coach, teacher? Which one are you first?
I mean, either one.
Either one.
Technically teacher, I think.
Teacher first. Now that's politically correct. He wanted to say coach. If you can see, you can see in his eyes. If you're on YouTube, you saw in his eyes, the man wanted to say coach. And so Dallas Wiginton. Say it for me.
Yeah, Wigington.
Wigington. Yeah. Yes, his wife's in the room to correct me on all spelling and all things right. So anyway, so glad to have you here.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
We've already had a full podcast before this,
pretty much,
which was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I learned that I like you a lot. You're a good guy. I love your story.
Thanks.
I appreciate you sharing that with me and your lovely wife, Logan. So it's been really cool. So Dallas ends up being on the podcast because, one, I just want to encourage teachers, and I love having conversations with teachers.
Yeah.
I love learning about teachers and the work that y'all do and how you all make such a great impact on so many people's lives. My son shared a stat the other day. My son works for me, and he shared a stat on Facebook, on my Facebook page, that if a teacher works 10 years on average, they impact 3,000 students.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
It's awesome.
Like most
really
people
cool.
are not impacting 3,000 people in a 10-year span. And so that's one of the reasons I really appreciate the work y'all do. And I've told the story many times about how just when people decide to move to Guthrie, the first thing they're asking is, what are the schools like, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such an important thing in the family structure and all that good stuff. So tell me, how did you get into teaching?
Yeah, for sure. So
coaching. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, ladies. We know how you got into teaching. How did you get into coaching? Tell us how you started teaching.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of an interesting path, probably a little different than normal, I would say. So I came to UCO around 2012. I was in the golf management program at UCO, which is a program to just work at a golf course, be like a golf pro. So I did that from 2012 to about 2015, and I finished with my master's in business at UCO. Kind of shifted gears and went into accounting for a little bit. I worked at an accounting firm here in the city for about 6 months, and then I worked for my church for close to a little over 5 years, and then I worked at the zoo for close to 2 years as a financial controller, and then I decided to throw all that away in the accounting field and go into teaching. I'd been at the zoo for a little bit, and it was a great place to work, but just wasn't the best fit for me for kind of what I needed at the time. And so I was just really kind of looking and praying about what would be the next step. And so all of my family was in education. My mom and dad both taught school. My mom coached. My brother is a president of the junior college in Altus. Aunts, uncles, all teachers and everybody. And so my wife was like, you should teach and like coach or something. I think you'd really like it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. And I'm kind of a slow mover. So it took a little while to kind of come around. And then I was thinking about getting back into golf and just kind of dreaming about what like the next chapter of my life would look like. And I was looking online and I saw Edmond Santa Fe had the golf coach opening and at their high school, and they also had a business teacher opening. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool that they have both. And so I kind of applied on a whim and got an interview, and here we are. So 2 years later, last year was my first year coaching and teaching. And so now this is my second year. And it's just been awesome. It's been a blast.
So you're going into your second year coaching, teaching.
Yeah.
And coaching. So did you coach the first year too?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got both. Teaching and coaching.
Yeah.
Tell me the first time you walked into a classroom as the teacher.
Man.
Like, what was that
wild.
like? That feels so scary to me.
Oh my gosh, it was terrifying. I mean, it was terrifying because, and I got hired pretty late in the school year.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, I mean, I got hired kind of like late July. And so, I mean, it was just like a whirlwind.
So you're talking like 2 to 3 weeks to get yourself.
Just like bang, bang, bang. And like, everything is all new. And then like that first day hit. And like, I remember standing in front of those kids, and it's a classroom, full of like 30, 14 to 18-year-old high school kids. And I was like, what in the world am I doing? It was scary. It was really scary because, those kids are just looking to you like, okay, you're the guy, like, what are we doing today? And so, it was a crazy experience, but, I kind of got the hang of it after a while. And this year is going a lot smoother. Last year, everything was new and I was having to learn everything. This year I have pretty much all the same classes. I'm kind of in a groove of what we're doing schoolwork wise and, how to take attendance and, all of that kind of stuff that I didn't know how to do last year. And so, we're off to a good start this year. So
what do you say? So I'm trying to imagine going into my first year of teaching.
Yeah.
With no experience.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just 3 or 4 weeks out and you go to this classroom.
Sure.
These kids are looking at you, and how do you prepare for lesson plans and all that? What did you do? Because I feel like there's so much and 3 weeks is just not enough and you're in there.
Yeah, for sure. And so, my classes that I teach, so I teach computer applications 1 and 2. I also teach a web design course. I coach the boys golf team, and I have kind of a credit recovery class, which is kind of a study hall for kids who are making up credits for the year. And so, but for my computer classes, I kind of got with the teachers that teach those classes, and they kind of shared some of the stuff that they were doing. And so I kind of borrowed that stuff. And then as the years got on, I've kind of modified it or kind of made it my own a little bit, kind of added some assignments. I'm kind of a finance guy. So one of my assignments that I always do is I have the kids make an Excel budget for their month. And I have them go and make up a career for them and their future spouse. And I have them look up the annual salary in Oklahoma. And then I have them go put that in a tax calculator to see how much they're going to get after taxes. And then I make them budget out this is what rent's going to be. This is what utilities are going to be. This is what my groceries will cost, cell phone, internet, all that stuff. Because, when you get out in the real world and you have to figure that out. We use an Excel budget.
Yeah.
It's just some of those things that when I was growing up in school, we didn't really have that as much. And so then I got out in the real world and I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun assignment that we do that I like to do. And just most of the time they're like, I have to pay a lot in taxes. And I'm like, yeah, you do pay a lot in taxes.
You better believe that. So you get in there, you've done this for a year. First time in there was crazy, super scary. This coming back around the second year, you walked in there feeling more confident.
Oh, yeah.
What was the biggest difference for you outside of maybe confidence? Was there some little things that you just learned out of already doing it for a first year?
Yeah, kind of like I said, I think it's just been more of a familiarity with everything. Because last year, literally just everything I did throughout the whole school year and then rolling into golf season and, reserving the buses for golf season and setting our schedule for golf season and, trying to help with fundraising. And everything was new. And so this year, like I said, my classes are kind of the same. We still have all our curriculum and stuff. And so there is just a lot more familiarity with, the profession as a whole. And so it's been nice and just kind of a confidence of knowing that I've done it a year, and doled out some discipline in class and know how to handle different situations and, some things like that. So,
yeah. The business class, is this like an elective?
My classes are electives. And so the computer classes that they can take those in lieu of a foreign language if they want to. So they can take computer applications 1 and 2. And then my web design class is a full year class that I have with the kids. And so they're fun. This generation, everybody thinks they're really tech savvy. but they're phone savvy. You know what I mean? Like these kids, they don't know how to work.
Great way of putting that.
I mean, they don't know how to work like a computer. I mean, a desktop computer and like save files and like where to find the file after you save it. You know what I mean? So like, it's really cool. And just with my background of working in business and accounting, like in the real world, like I know that these are going to be skills that they're going to have to use. Like they might not know it now, but like they're going to be in Excel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like when I was at the zoo, my whole job was in Excel spreadsheets, you know? And so it's going to be real world skills that, you know, transfer over. But yes, they are electives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking like if kids are taking business, I'm thinking like they're the better kids. Like they're not kids. Yeah, that's what I was about to you said not better kids, but you know, like I feel like they're coming in, they got their stuff together, they kind of know what they want to do. Because for me, I would have been like a business class. I'm not taking a business class. That's for like, but no, you're saying it's
a broad spectrum. You know what I mean? Like
it's like any other class.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, since you can take the computer classes instead of a foreign language. Like you have some kids that didn't want to take a language, you know, but I mean, it's a broad mix. I mean, I have kids in my web design class that, I mean, love coding and like want to go into web development in college. And like, I mean, I had a kid last year that for the end of our year in our web design class, we make like a full website for a restaurant. And so it's called Wolves Pizza. And so like I gave him the location and we work on it for almost 2 months. And so they have like a home page, a menu page, you know, like an about us, like a hiring section and all that. And for most of the kids, we use like some templates where they kind of, you know, put in the pictures and like type it up. But most of the hard coding is like done for them, you know?
Yeah.
But like I had one kid that was all about it. I mean, he literally built his whole website from scratch, like in the code on the program. And I mean, he had like a menu that was like auto calculating whatever you added to it. He had like forms and search bars. Like it was crazy. I mean, he just worked so hard on it and was like so proud of it. And it was awesome. So that's what I like about the web design classes. Some of the other classes, kind of grading and stuff, is all the same assignment. But the web design class, the kids kind of get to show their creativity, and each kid's kind of assignment ends up looking a little different, you know. So that kind of keeps it interesting when you're grading.
What software y'all doing the website stuff through? Building the web?
Yeah, they use Adobe Dreamweaver right now. Yeah, so you know, with the blocks on internet browsers and some of that stuff, we can't use some of the modern platforms that kids are using. So we use Dreamweaver and also Photoshop quite a bit. We'll make some stuff in Photoshop and then put that into Dreamweaver. So they'll like make a banner for the website or make a logo, you know, for the website. And then we do Dreamweaver, but it's good. I like it because, you know, we do quite a bit at the beginning of the year with like HTML code. And then this week we're doing like an assignment with CSS, you know, and so it's really kind of the groundworks of all the, you know, major web design platforms now, you know, so it kind of gives them like a good kind of base level. So
yeah, especially if you're learning CSS, like I saw I use Squarespace for my website and CSS. You can do a little bit of CSS in them and things like that. But like to think Dreamweaver and Photoshop like that, those aren't easy things just to go into.
No.
So were you already familiar with that?
No.
Oh, okay. Because now I'm like, wait, this is a whole different conversation. I'm thinking business and you talking Dreamweaver and computer apps.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you know, the computer app stuff, like I was obviously very fluent in Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word.
Yeah,
like,
you got that.
All that stuff. But I mean, Photoshop and Dreamweaver, I mean, I was having to learn all that last year. And so you talk about it. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing is like just kind of my knowledge base on those platforms. I mean, last year I was having to learn it like before I kind of taught the kids. Like, and I mean, I would tell them, I was like, you can do this because I didn't know how to do it. And
3 minutes ago.
Right. And I learned it. You know what I mean? Like you can do this. I can show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I mean, the kids were great because last year I had some kids that were really good in Photoshop and, you know, Dreamweaver. So
they came in already knowing.
Yeah, exactly. I had some kids that were really advanced in Photoshop. And so I would let them kind of help other kids and like, you know, kind of be a little more collaborative and like help me and then help the other kids. And so It was pretty late. My web design classes are pretty laid back. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's really cool. Kind of going back a little bit. So you grew up where?
I grew up in Altus, Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, and when you were growing up in Altus, you went there from K through 12?
Yeah, all the way up. Yeah.
Gotcha. So going through high school, we'll just skip straight to high school. You're getting ready to leave out of high school.
Sure.
Trying to decide where you're going to go to school. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So I feel like growing up, I kind of always thought I would do like medicine or something. Not, I don't know, just like to do it. It wasn't really like something I felt like a huge calling to, but like I had made good grades through high school and like it just felt like a logical step and a good career, and so right after high school, I had a really great scholarship to the junior college in Altus, Western Oklahoma State College, where my brother's the president now. Go Pioneers. And so I went there for 2 years, and all my school was paid for there, and I got my books and everything paid for. And then that scholarship carried over to any state institution for 2 years and covered books, tuition, fees, everything. And I got kind of a stipend through that. I also played golf at the junior college for 2 years. And then so I transferred to OU, and I was going to do pre-med. And like I remember the time we went up to like visit OU with my mom. I was a small town kid from Altus, and like it was totally overwhelming. And I remember looking over at my mom, and I was like, "Let's just go home." And I should have listened to that, but I didn't. So I came up a couple weeks later and like started school and stuff, and like it just was not for me. I mean, I remember a chemistry 2 class with like a Russian professor that didn't really speak English, and it was close to 300 kids in the classroom, and I was just like, I can't do it, And so that was a really hard time because you go away and like everybody's like, Dallas is at OU and all this stuff, your family and friends and everything, and but I knew it wasn't the right thing. Like I could kind of sense in my spirit that it wasn't the right thing, and so made a hard change, and I went back home through the end of that semester and was kind of doing some soul searching and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And that's when I found like the golf management program at UCO. And so I had one of my best friends was at UCO and thought it might be a good fit. Cause that was kind of the thing about OU is like, I transferred in as a junior. And so I was just kind of on an island, and I didn't really know anybody there. And I just felt so alone, like in this giant sea of people, And so, but UCO was totally the opposite. I had a lot of friends that went there, and then within the golf program, I got to be really close with some of those guys. And so with that, like we do internships in the summer and just learning all the different ins and outs to the golf business, and
Man, that's pretty. Yeah, that's a journey there.
Yeah,
and so because. You end up getting that degree in golf management.
So I was kind of a unique situation because I had my 2 years of school there, and I actually had to do another semester at UCO because the golf program only started in the fall, and so I got to UCO in the spring the year before and kind of like started taking some business classes. And so you can't get your degree in the golf management program until every summer you do an internship. And so like your last internship is 9 months long. So it runs from May all the way through, all the way through December. And so, and that's hopefully kind of your job, but you can't get your degree until you finish that internship.
Oh, wow.
So after about 2.5, 3 years, like in the golf program, I kind of already had a bachelor's degree in business essentially. But I couldn't get it, but they kind of worked a deal at UCO, and I think I was the second person that did it. And so they kind of gave us early entry into the master's program for business. Because we had all the credits, it was just kind of a weird situation where I couldn't get the degree because of the internships. And so they let us into the master's program. And so I was taking my MBA classes, concurrently while I was kind of still doing the golf program stuff.
Okay.
And so I did all my internships for the most part. So I'd done 3 years. My first internship, I went to a golf course in South Carolina, a resort. It's called Kiowa Island Golf Resort. It's one of the top golf resorts in the country. So I was out there for a summer when we had the PGA Championship in 2012. Rory McIlroy won, so that was a lot of fun. And then the summer after that, I stayed in Edmond and worked at Kicking Bird for my internship. And then after that, I worked at a country club in Tulsa called Cedar Ridge and Broken Arrow. And that was awesome. But kind of around that time, I loved golf, but when you work in something, sometimes it kind of changes, and I was kind of losing a little bit of my love for it. Like it kind of wasn't my hobby anymore. Like it was a job. And I tell people, in college, I worked at a gym. And so when I finished a shift at the gym, I never really wanted to work out. You know what I mean? Because you work there. And so then like the golf course kind of started to become the same thing, right? Where like I would work a 8-hour shift at the golf course, and then like I get off and like you just need to get away, from it. And so I kind of lost like my the joy of golf a little bit, like the hobby part of it. And the golf business is tough. Like, you're working when the general public is off, so it's a lot of weekends, it's a lot of holidays. And so I didn't have a family at the time, but I could just kind of see long term that maybe it wasn't going to quite line up with what I wanted for a family. And so kind of made that shift. And so I finished my bachelor's degree and then got my master's there at UCO. And then kind of, I'd been working part-time at an accounting firm. And so they ended up offering me a job and kind of teaching me the ropes of accounting. And so that was kind of how I ended up in accounting for a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
And you got to see quite a bit with those golf courses.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And especially South Carolina, like getting out there, to live out there for a summer and just kind of experience a different culture. Cause I've only lived in Oklahoma, my whole life. So, to get to live in a state, different state and like by the ocean and just a world-class facility. It's a 5-star, 5-diamond resort. Incredibly nice. It was awesome.
Now, when you got hired there, did you know that they were doing the PGA Tour?
Well, so the reason I got hired there, I was dating a girl who her uncle was the head golf pro, and so I didn't get that job on any merits of my own. Yeah. It was a classic, who you know.
It's the truth. That's what. Right. That's most things in life.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I tell people all the time.
It is who you know.
Yeah.
So because that was my first internship. Yeah, I think that year they had over 150 interns apply, and there were 2 of us there at the resort. So yeah, it was who I knew.
But so you took that, but you said that they did the PGA.
Yeah, so they hosted the PGA Championship that year.
Did you know that they were going to have that before you got to? Okay. Yeah. So you was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah, and I extended. So that tournament at the time was taking place in kind of August. They've moved it now, but it was in August, and so I kind of extended my internship to be there like the week of the tournament. And so it was a lot of fun. It was cool.
That's super cool. That's really cool. So in doing that kind of event, like just real quick, because I love events and putting together events. That's a big time event. Really, that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
Like what did you learn out of seeing an event of that magnitude put together? Like, is there 1 or 2 things that kind of stood out to you?
Sure. It was just so big, and it was kind of unique. So at the resort, there's 5 separate golf courses, right? And so the golf course that I worked at was called Turtle Point. We weren't actually hosting the tournament, but it was all kind of on the island. But the tournament where they hosted it was probably a mile away up the road and kind of secluded. So, I didn't get to see like a ton of the day-to-day stuff with the operations, but, we did get to host like some different people kind of coming in. Like Dan Marino came in and played our course. With a couple like CEOs of some Fortune 500 companies and stuff. And so it was really cool. So I don't have any like major event planning stuff, but also the PGA comes in, PGA of America. So they come in and run the whole thing. You're
essentially just hosting.
Yeah, they have a team. And obviously our team like plays a part on the ground, but I mean, it's a huge thing, and they have everything well planned out, and it's like a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Man, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so kind of got you through college. We know you're teaching now. This second year going into this thing, feeling good about it. You've been called, you're serving, you're getting to do golf again.
Yeah.
What is it like? Because not only were you just a first-year teacher, you were a first-year teacher coach.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a little bit more on your plate than just teaching. What has that been like for you?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, it's been so much fun, and kind of like we talked about. I mean, I feel like kind of getting back into golf, my life has kind of come full circle. You know, I think back to, I mean, our very first tournament last year was down in Texas, and so like the night before we played our tournament, like I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was like just fired up. You know what I mean? And like. Just kind
like
of
you were about to play.
Yeah,
like the coaches are fired up like that. I didn't know that.
And so, but I mean, I was just thinking about it and just kind of like thinking about my life to that point, and you know, I got really emotional and kind of wrote out like a couple like really long paragraphs about like what I was feeling and stuff. And
this was at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah,
oh, this is real.
Like me, like crying and like,
oh yeah.
yeah.
Did you do that about me, babe?
No.
If you couldn't hear, let me just tell you what just happened. His wife asked him, did he wake up at 3 a.m. the night before he married her, and write down any notes. Go ahead. Let's hear about these notes. Do you got those notes still?
Yeah.
What did you write them on? Like, was it paper and pen, or?
I mean, I wrote it in a notes app on my phone, and like I made like a Facebook page, like a Facebook post after it.
Oh,
just kind of like, yeah.
This is serious.
Well, because I got really emotional because I touched on it a little bit, but so you know, my mom is a swim coach in Altus.
Yeah.
She's in her 43rd year this year coaching swimming in Altus. Yeah, I mean, legend. She made it into the Coaches Hall of Fame this year. I mean, she has multiple state championships. You know, and I think the biggest thing, and kind of like, you know, what made me kind of want to get into coaching is, I mean, I've just seen over the years, like, you know, the impact that my mom has had in her kids' lives. You know, like, I mean, Altus is kind of a smaller town. You know, people go to school and like move away, you know, and maybe don't come back every often. And I mean, you know, my mom has so many kids that they might come back every couple years just to see an aunt or a grandparent or, you know, whatever. But like, they always stop at the pool, you know, to see my mom because, I mean, she just loves them and like she cares for them so much. And I mean, she's just a great coach, and like she's lived her life that way, you know. And so I tell people, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but like, I mean, I had 18 years of like living with my mom and like seeing what, you know, a coach and a servant, you know, looks like. So, but that was kind of why I got emotional, was like, you know, being able to kind of follow in her footsteps. And so, you know, my nickname is Coach Wig or Wig, which is a name that my mom's kids have called her.
Oh, wow.
All through school.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, the first couple of times, like, you know, the kids would like say Wig or Coach Wig. I mean, like I like was physically getting choked up because it was just, I mean, it's just something I'd seen, you know, kids call my mom like this term of endearment, you know, for so long. And so like that night I woke up and I was just thinking about, you know, everything I'd been through in my life that kind of like led up to that point, you know, and I got really emotional because I felt like the Lord had really brought me back into golf and kind of restored some loss that I had over the last couple of years, and just brought me like full circle to golf. And I mean, I feel so fulfilled and like passionate about it. And I mean, it's just been awesome. Like I said, I mean, it really has given me like a new lease on life, you know, to be able to coach and to teach and, you know, just to help make a difference in kids' lives, you know.
Now, are you the head coach, or?
I am the head coach. Yeah.
The head coach, yeah. And so, knowing coaches, like the coaches come up with their sayings, pre-game speeches, those kind of things, like. Is that the same in golf? Like, did you give your first pregame speech in golf? Like, what do you say?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, which I'm a little more cerebral. Like I can definitely be like pretty intense, but I'm not like a huge like speech kind of like rah guy. I try to kind of lead more by like example. Like, I mean, I really believe like more is caught than taught, you know? And so I just try to live my life with a spirit of excellence and, you know, discipline. And like, I want those guys to show up every day and see me, you know, prepared for practice and prepared for the day and like, you know, intent about what we're doing and, you know, do things with a spirit of excellence. I did have a couple of good speeches though. I don't remember exactly. I mean, there was one. So our first tournament was in Texas. Like I said, my kind of story at 3 a.m. But so afterwards, I had a couple of guys last year who were seniors, really great players. One went to play for Nebraska. One is at Central Missouri, which is a Division II school, really good golf program there. And so we had a solid team last year. I had 4 seniors. And so our first tournament down in, you know, Texas, we played pretty well. And so, you know, we're at Santa Fe. One of our big rivals is Edmond North, you know, obviously. And I mean, for those people that don't know, Edmond North is arguably the top public, you know, golf program for high schools like in the country. I mean, it's arguably, you know, over their history, one of the top public school golf programs in the nation. I mean,
wow, I didn't know that.
You know, they have multiple guys on the PGA Tour right now, like major winners. Like, I mean, Edmond North is legit, you know, because their school district is Oak Tree, so they get all the kids that grew up playing Oak Tree and Oak Tree National every year. So Edmond North is obviously our big rival, and like, you know, I've seen my mom take underdogs and kind of take underdog teams. Like my mom's had kids that, you know, couldn't swim in 8th grade, and she taught them how to swim. And then by their senior year, they're like a state qualifier, you know, because she has a system. And like, you know, people can do amazing things when they have somebody that believes in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so Edmond, you know, I told those guys, I was like, you know, I took this job because I want to beat Edmond North. And like, you know, they all looked at me like, okay, coach. Like, you know, like, I mean, Edmond North is a powerhouse. I mean, they're phenomenal. But so that first tournament, we went down there, and the first day, like the course conditions were pretty tough. And so some of the Edmond North kids like didn't play as well. And then, you know, the second day it was kind of like a country club and a little nicer, but like we ended up, I think we tied with them for the tournament. And so, I mean, like on the car ride home, and I'm sure some of the guys could tell you, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I mean, I was kind of charged up, and I was like, I told you guys, like, we could beat anybody. You know, if we play our best, we can beat anybody. And so I was pretty charged up. That was probably one of my better speeches like last year. So
that's cool. That's cool. Is golf season in the spring?
Yeah, it's a spring sport
in
Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you had your first year, second year. Are you making some big changes? Like,
man, I don't think huge changes. You know, our team makeup is kind of different this year. I mean, last year, like I said, I had 4 seniors on the team, on my varsity team. So varsity, you take five golfers to a tournament, and then you keep 4 scores. And so I had 4 seniors last year, and then now this year we're just going to be a lot younger.
Gotcha.
And so I'm just going to, you know, the team changes every year, and I've kind of heard my mom say that over the years, but you know, so the chemistry's a little different. But I've got a good group of guys and some younger guys that are working hard, and I've got a couple freshmen that like are pretty good players and had some good summers with some tournaments. And so I'm not going to do anything crazy different. But last year, you know, with my older guys, I knew I only had them for, you know, 1 year.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of tried to pour into kind of my older guys, and we really kind of focused more, you know, on kind of mental performance and, you know, sports psychology type stuff, like how to play your best in, you know, big moments, which we'll still do this year. But since we're younger, I mean, I'm probably going to try to focus on a little more just like fundamental skill building, like of the golf swing, like with the younger guys, you know, because that's kind of my background. If I stayed in golf, I was going to go into teaching. You know, that's where I've kind of always, you know, liked golf, the golf swing, kind of teaching. Like this summer I worked at a golf course in Edmond and was kind of teaching again. I gave like over 70 lessons this summer and have kind of gotten back into teaching. And so that's been a lot of fun too.
Yeah, that's good. Whenever kids are walking through the halls, what is a golf coach looking for? Because I know all coaches are like recruiting. Like, what are you looking for? Long arms? What are you like?
I don't know.
A certain height? What are you looking for?
That's a good question. I mean, golf's kind of unique because it does help to have athleticism, but I mean it's not a sport where like the biggest or strongest kid always wins. You know what I mean? Like it is so mental, and so our guys last year is kind of a good example of that. So the guy who went to Nebraska, he was 6'5", super lean. I mean, like if Sam Presti saw him, he would draft him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's the Sam Presti like model, like really tall, lean. And then, the kid who went to Central Missouri is a little shorter. But, both those guys were incredible players for me last year. And the one who went to Central Missouri, his name is CJ. He was leading the state tournament after the first day. And then the second day kind of made a couple tough bogeys kind of coming in, but he finished fourth and made All-State. He was a low senior for 6A last year. So, there's no kind of prototype for golf.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a guy who was 6'5" and another guy who was 5'7".
Yeah.
And, they were both great players. So that's pretty cool.
And I guess that's the cool thing about golf too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like body size.
Yeah. I mean, it's more like
it's a mental game.
Mental and like who can kind of handle the pressure and like, and that's the cool thing. Like I feel about getting to teach golf is because I feel like it mirrors life a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it teaches you a lot about yourself, like how you handle adversity, how you handle bad breaks. I mean, there's ups, there's highs, really high highs, and then really low lows, and like all in 18 holes sometimes, you know what I mean? And so you have to really kind of manage your emotions and kind of learn how to navigate that. And so I feel fortunate to be able to coach golf because I do feel like there's so many parallels, to life. And that was kind of why I wanted to get into golf coaching, was because, I didn't really feel like I maybe lived up to my potential athletically in golf because I didn't practice quite as much. And, my mental game wasn't quite as good as it could have been in high school, and so to be able to help those guys and play a part in, them improving and them getting better and, their dreams. I mean, I have a good friend that, he sends a quote and, it talks about being, when you coach someone, you're helping them chase their dream. And, what's better than that, as being dream, chasers. And so it's really cool.
That's cool. What was it? Who was the teacher that made an impact on you?
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, obviously outside of my mom, when she was my coach too, which that was definitely a unique relationship. I think she would say to this day, I was probably one of her most challenging swimmers.
Was that because you were her child, or because you just swimming didn't come natural to you?
No. I mean, it definitely came naturally to me, and like, 'cause I mean, we had grown up in the pool. Like, I mean, both me and my brother, like, we were swimming when we were in diapers. With my mom, like she had us swimming, but my brother didn't swim on the swim team, but I did, and so it was my mom's first time coaching one of her sons, and then like, I didn't understand it at the time, but like now looking back, I can, because she held me to a higher standard, because I was her son, because she knew the other kids were watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like whatever she let me get away with, they would think that was okay. And I mean, me at 16 and 17, I probably didn't have like the full, understanding of all that. So we just kind of bickered a little bit, like, I mean, I remember one day where she, and here's the thing, like with swimming, I love the competition part of swimming, like the races and the meets, and like, cause I'm super competitive. So like that part I loved, but like the day-to-day practice, I just couldn't deal with in swimming, because you just look at the bottom of a pool for 2.5 hours and just go back and forth. And it's just mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah.
And like I'm not the biggest fan of cardio. And so so that was kind of, I wasn't the best practicer at swimming. I was a decent competitor. But for my mom, who was the coach, that was tough. I mean, I remember there was one day she was like, just quit. And so I just got out of the pool and like went into the locker room, and she came in and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, you told me to quit. She was like, I didn't even want you to do it.
That was her motivation. She's trying to get you to go an extra.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you get home at night? Like, were y'all pretty good at leaving it at school?
I mean, we were pretty good at leaving it at school, you know. But going back to your question, a teacher that made an impact on me, his name is James LeGrand. And to this day, I mean, he's one of my close friends. And so he was an assistant golf coach when I was in high school at Altus. And I got to have him in sociology. He was also a history teacher there. And so, just a guy who was like just a phenomenal teacher and like really cared about the profession and like the craft of teaching. He's a Abraham Lincoln fanatic. I mean, he could tell you every fact imaginable about Abraham Lincoln, and has gone to, like seminars in Washington, D.C. and like studied at museums, and like all this kind of stuff. But he was one of the best teachers that I had. And then also like as a golf coach, I mean, he just kind of took an interest in me, and then kind of really like when I was at the junior college in Altus for 2 years, I mean, we really kind of went past, like a teacher-coach relationship and developed a friendship. And I mean, he's just been a great friend to me. And I mean, he's super into movies. Like that's one of his big hobbies. And so we kind of bonded over that. And he was recommended me movies to watch, and we just developed a really good friendship. And like I said, it's still gone on to this day. And so, he's made a really big impact in my life, just kind of seeing, the difference that a teacher or coach that, cares about you can.
Yeah. No, that's really good. 20 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you'd be, but maybe you're still teaching.
53, yeah.
Still teaching, coaching, and all that. What is it that you want those students now that by that time that you're impacting now?
Yeah.
20 years to say about you?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I told my guys, like, and not just the golf guys, but like my students too, like, I want everybody that leaves my room, to know that, I really care about them and that I'm there for them no matter what, and like I told the golf guys, if you need to call at 3 a.m., 10 years from now, like I want you to know that you can call Coach Wig and like I'll be there for you, and I told those guys, like those seniors last year, I was like, hey, our relationship doesn't end like after you graduate. You know what I mean? Like I'm still your coach, and like I'm still there for you, and like I still want to pour into you and like be a part of your life, and be a resource for you, in any way that I can. I mean, the guys that come through the golf program, like I want to prepare them to be, better husbands and better, citizens in their community. Because not everybody's going to get a Division I golf scholarship.
Yeah.
The majority aren't, you know what I mean? It's incredibly difficult. And so, but there's a lot of value in sports and extracurricular activities. I mean, I was talking to one of my guys yesterday, like that's kind of failing a couple classes. And, I was like, high school is the time for you to learn, and like to learn all these responsibilities that you have and like how to manage them, and I was like, that's what high school is, and college. And like, as we go through things, it expands our ability to handle those things. I said, like, I have a lot of responsibilities right now. Like I'm a husband, and then I'm a coach, I'm a teacher. I work part-time at the golf course. I give golf lessons part-time, and like, that's a lot to juggle and kind of manage. But as I've gone through things in high school and college, like it's expanded my capacity, to be able to juggle those things and still do all of them well. And so, I just want the kids to know, like I said, that one, I'm there for them, like no matter what, and that I do care about them and love them. And I know for sure those guys last year, like they would believe that, you know, and so, and then just to that, to try to prepare them to be better husbands, to be better citizens, and like go out in the world and be, productive people in society.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Two more questions.
Yeah.
What's at least one right thing that you've like, I got to be consistent in this, and you're so experienced so far in teaching and coaching, like I have to be consistent in what?
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure, just like discipline, and especially with the team, like we had some things last year where, some of my better players had like kind of broken a team rule. And, I doled out like a pretty harsh punishment to that person, like what they felt was really harsh, but like I felt like it kind of matched, the weight of what had happened. And so, but, I told them, I was like, I know this is the hardest thing that you've gone through right now. But I hope down the road, you can look back and like appreciate this as a really great learning experience, and me, holding you accountable to something, because I said, you're going to go through harder things than this. And, you going through this right now is going to make it where you can go through harder things in the future, And so, and he was one of my better players. I mean, one of my best players. And so it's important with discipline. And I mean, I'd seen that from my mom too, like you treat everybody the same. Yeah. And like, with discipline, if your best player breaks the rule, the punishment has to be the same as if your worst player breaks the rule. And, he had come to me and wanted me to, possibly kind of switch the punishment after I'd announced it to the team. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, this is what we're going to do. And I know it's hard, but we're going to walk through it, because I said, if I change it now, like all these kids that are 11th through 9th grade, like I lose all credibility with them. You know what I mean? Like, because what I said we were going to do, we're not doing, And so, it's just really important to me, I talk about our core values for the golf team are, integrity, discipline, excellence, and family. And so, those are just kind of dreaming about like the program I want to run. Like I want those to be the hallmarks of it, and that's cool. Those are things that I feel like I try to live my life by, And so, I kind of want those kids to catch that a little bit, like over their time in the golf program.
Yeah, that's good. I'm a parent.
Yeah.
What advice would you give me as a parent for my children to be the most successful students?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest advice is like just to be involved. Just like take an involved role, like in your kids' education. With technology, like we have, a lot of tools at their disposal, for that. I mean, you can sign in to be an observer on the Canvas classroom and, have your account on Infinite Campus where you can see their grades. But I would just say be involved, and just take an active role. Because I think and that's kind of been like, I guess one of the more sadder things about like being around kids and working with kids is like you do kind of see those kids that are like kind of slipping through the cracks, right? Where, they're failing my class and then like I go look at their grades and like they're failing all their classes, right? And so, and I think early on you think, man, they're just not, they're not turning anything in. They just don't want to learn, like that kind of thing. But I mean, even in the short time that I've been teaching, I've just seen multiple times where it kind of comes around. And now, like when I see that, my first thought is like, what is that kid's home life like? Like what are the things that are going on at home where, it's okay that they're failing every class and that they have like, a 1.2 GPA, I think that's really sad. So I try to meet kind of all my kids where they are. And, if I have those kids, I mean, I really try to go like out of my way to kind of help them, like I had a kid today and he had about 3 missing assignments. And I was like, I go over to him, he's on his phone playing games. And I was like, hey, like, let's work on this assignment. You're not supposed to be on your phone right now. You've got 3 like missing, and, he was like, no, I just don't want to do it. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want to do it? He's like, I don't want to do it right now. And now this is the same kid. We were doing an assignment a couple weeks ago. It was just like an about me assignment. I do that every year in all of my classes at the beginning of the year. It's just some questions like, tell me about your family. Tell me about your interests. Like, where do you work? What's an interesting fact about you? And I read through all those, you know what I mean? And like names are really important, to me. Like I try to learn all the kids' names really fast. And I had a kid last year that like, they were like, wow, you remember my name, And so, it is cool. I mean, just to see like those little things make a difference, like just remembering a kid's name, like something I kind of took for granted because I was like, I'm going to know all my kids' names, you know what I mean? And like, I greet them as they come in and I greet them as they leave. But that kid, when you were doing the about me assignment, I was like, here, this is missing, like, let's work on this. And I was like, what's kind of something about you? And he was like, I mean, I don't really even know anything about myself. And I was like, and that just hit me really hard because I was like, man, like, that's really sad.
Yeah.
That like, here's a 16-year-old kid and like, what's kind of the home situation where he doesn't have maybe somebody pouring into him and like just speaking life over him and, speaking hope and, belief in him. But fast forward to today and I was like, hey, like, let me just show you. This assignment's really easy. Like it's 50 points. Like we'll just do this one, we'll just do this one and turn it in and then you won't have to worry about it. And he's like, okay. And so we did this one, like learning how to save a file, on Microsoft Word, like save it under a new name. And so we did that one. I was like, hey, let me, show you this next one. Like it's really fast. It won't take long. And so, I mean, I spent really like probably 30, 40 minutes with him, like the whole class. And we went through 3 full assignments, and like, I walked him through it just like step by step, and it was a kid. I mean, he had, like a 60 in my class a couple days ago. And, but I walked him through it and where, he didn't want to work on it. He's like, I don't want to do it, and I think kind of as we were going through it, like, he's having trouble like spelling some words. And so I think it was really kind of coming from a place of like not knowing how to do it and like, not wanting to be vulnerable and, show that he didn't know how to do it and, maybe didn't know how to spell some words and some stuff like that. But I mean, we did all 3 assignments and like now he has an A in my class right now. And like I was like, hey, like give me a fist bump. Good job today. Like we got a lot done, because you never know, like you talked about, like we never know what that, interaction in his life could be, you know what I mean? Because I've just, some of the teachers that have been around like longer, like, and even both of my parents too, being in Altus and like in the community, like anytime we went out to eat, like my mom and dad would have countless people come up and like talk to him about 9th grade English and like the balcony speech that my dad made him memorize from Romeo and Juliet. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things, like, can have a eternal impact, in kids' lives. And so that's why I'm really thankful, just for an opportunity to get to pour into, some situations like that.
That's cool. No, that's really cool. Man, thank you for the work you do.
Yeah, of course.
Man, I appreciate that. The one quote for sure is, I think this is the way you said it, more is caught than taught.
Yeah.
More is caught than taught. And I'm a big believer in like, with my children and everything, I just want to live the best I can in front of them because I think when they leave out, it's amazing the things that they caught that they didn't even know and they live that way. So yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of the thing too. And like I want the golf guys and my kids in class to like, I mean, just see a real person, like, I mean, I told the guys, like the golf guys last year, like I'm new to this, like I'm
I'm probably going to make some mistakes this year. You know what I mean? But like, I promise you that everything I'm doing, like, I'm doing it because I think it's for the best for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, if I do something that's a mistake, like, I'm going to own it and we'll just like move on. You know, but yeah, I mean, I agree with that too, just because it is like people are always watching, you know, when, no matter what, you know, somebody's always watching about how you carry yourself and, you know, how you interact with other people. You know, you're making a difference more than you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always say this is not like a Christian podcast, but I am a person of faith.
Yeah.
And today in our Bible reading, we have the Bible reading plan that we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, and this is Paul writing to the Corinthians. And one of the things he says, because he's kind of talking about these different factions that are being formed and people are following different apostles or whatever. And Paul says at the end of the chapter, he says, "Follow me as I follow Christ." And that was, to me, is kind of that Morris Calton than talk.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, just follow me. Like, watch what I do. I'm gonna lead by example.
Sure.
And so so keep showing up, keep leading by example. And man, the difference that you're gonna make, and it's gonna be cool that 20 years from now you bump into people and they're sharing with how, you know, that speech you gave them on the way back from Texas made a difference in their life.
Yeah, hopefully so.
How can people follow you?
Yeah, so I have a golf coaching account on Instagram. It's OKC Golf Lab. Kind of trying to do some posting and stuff there. Also, our school golf account is SF Wolves Golf on Instagram. Those are kind of our two main ones. And then my personal one is just my name, Dallas Wiginton, as well. So
thank you so much, Dallas.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.